What's up, Thumbers? Welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes here on Hyper Rabbit Power Go! Now I get to turn that up in post. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
Thanks for making my life easier.
Was that a levels check?
No, that's just me.
That was the intro.
That's
Welcome, everybody.
We've done this before. We know what we're doing. Guys, welcome back to another week. I'm very excited to talk about a lot of stuff. It's been a good week. There's been some fun stuff, some fun announcements. But before we get into announcements of the news, we got to do some housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Sick, bro. Thanks to everyone on Patreon. We have a winner for the June commentary.
Oh.
It is not Batman 89 like I thought it was going to be, but the votes were so incredibly close. This movie won by 2% of the vote, which is absolutely... Which kind of insane considering it's Batman, and we know how our audience is. They want us to watch everything superhero
Did
related.
100 people vote?
Yeah, how many people voted?
I think it was 105 people.
Okay.
So
pretty good sample size.
This one won the vote by 2 votes.
Yeah, pretty
Your
much.
vote matters.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The winner is Men in Black.
The
From
original.
1997, baby.
Yes. Tommy Lee Jones.
Can we
Mr.
start
Smith.
that commentary by watching the video, the MTV music video as well?
For Men in Black?
Yes.
Absolutely
we need
not.
to watch
come
that.
on.
We got to wait till hear that into the credits. Then that's what's good.
Okay.
Just bounce with me. Just bounce with me. Just bounce with me. Okay.
Come on.
Oh man, so
Take
good.
a slide
I was
with me.
I was
Just
rewatching
slide
some
with me.
clips because I haven't seen this movie in so long, over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just watching some clips on YouTube and stuff, and I was like, man, this movie is great.
It's a
Yes.
good movie.
I'm
It's a
watching
good
the
movie.
clips and I'm realizing I haven't even seen Men in Black International,
Mm-hmm.
but just from the trailer, I'm watching the clips and I'm going, this is what this movie's missing.
Mm.
This is the tone.
Is
this is the feeling.
Is it Will Smith? Is it?
No, I
is
mean
it Will
it's
Smith?
I think it's a little bit of that and Tommy
Yeah.
Lee Jones and Vincent D'Onofrio, but I think it's
Yeah.
also just the look and the feel of the
Yeah.
movie. I mean, you
Yeah.
watch the opening scene and you're like, oh man, this
Mm-hmm.
just kind of hits.
I remember watching bits and pieces of it on TV fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
The CG hasn't aged well, but I remember
Some of it has, but most of it has not.
I think if you, I don't know.
There's good puppets.
There was
in it,
there's
too.
some good puppets. There's good puppet scenes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying ships landing and
Yeah.
other things is just kind of wonky. But
Some of it, yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio's performance is still fucking
he's
top
so
notch.
good.
It's
Still
gonna
top
be it's gonna
notch.
be great to talk about it because I've been wanting to dive back into the franchise. I
Yeah.
just did it with all my Toy Stories,
Mhm.
and now am I gonna go see Men in Black International in theaters? Maybe. I might try to catch it before it
I
leaves.
might too, yeah.
And it's especially because I got that AMC A list, and so it's
Oh, you did
might as
get it.
well. I got
Finally
it.
got it,
my
huh?
So it's
man.
All right,
do I
all
want to
right.
go back? And I know that Men in Black 2 and 3 are bad, and I don't enjoy them. And I'm real bummed about
You
that.
know,
I wish those sequels
have you watched
were great.
them recently?
I watched them all when Men in Black 3 came out.
Oh,
So
okay.
when did Men in Black 3 come out?
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
So that's the last time I saw all of the 3 movies.
I've heard a lot of people have gone back to revisit Men in Black 3, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, this is actually not that bad.
There's good stuff in it, but
Yeah.
there's some stuff that breaks the movie for me that I'm
Gotcha.
like, guys, come
How could
on.
you?
And it
Yeah.
makes Men in Black 2 better because I like more stuff in that movie. But overall, the first one is easily the best one.
Oh, for sure.
By far. It's a great movie.
And also the animated series is pretty damn good.
I know. And right now I'm doing Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and I'm like, this Men in Black thing might make me want to go back and watch Men in Black, the animated series.
Is it available anywhere?
No.
I don't
Oh,
think
that's
so.
too bad.
Gonna have to do it on the down low. Get my contacts, which is
Hey.
just I go and get all my VHSs because I've recorded every cartoon
That's
show
what
ever.
you do,
Yeah.
right? And you kept
That's what
all the
we all
tapes.
used to.
Yeah,
That's right. You
Yeah,
still
yeah.
keep
the
you
commercials
still
and
keep
everything.
that dusty VHS up in the attic. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But yeah, so that's the winner of the June poll. I'm super excited to do that. A new poll will go out at the end or the beginning of next month. What we're going to do next? We haven't really talked about what those movies could be, but June is usually a pretty big month. For blockbusters, or at least it was for the last 30, 40 years. So
Yeah.
there might be some gems in there, or we might just pick stuff that we're like, no, you know what? We just feel like doing these movies.
You need to jump into some animated movies,
I
dog.
know.
Oh,
Animated movies.
Listen, there's good stuff coming out in July,
Yeah.
including a little spider. So there might be some excuses to throw on some animated spider films.
Maybe
There might be.
I don't know if there was
That's
any
what I was
recently
thinking
good
about, but-
Spider-Man animated movies.
Yeah, that
were
was the thing that was
released.
holding me back. I was like, is there anything good Spider-Man related?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Not
Maybe
that I remember.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
do
see.
some research.
We'll do some research,
I'll figure it out.
when we'll get back to you guys.
Google it. We'll
figure
Google
it
it.
out.
But if you guys want to jump on the Patreon, patreon.com/hyperrpg, we're doing commentaries every month. We're doing Q&As from you guys, which we're going to be doing on Patreon and we're just kind of building that up and doing more stuff every single month. Anytime we unlock something new, we're always trying to do something. We're also taking suggestions from you guys. If you guys have suggestions on things that we could consider doing, then we'll obviously listen to any and all things you suggest.
Yup.
So jump over to Patreon and let us know. Also, if you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much for listening. If you're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever other podcasting network you get your podcast from, we're on there. Just search Hyper Heroes. And if you haven't done so yet, jump over to YouTube channel, youtube.com/hyperrpg, so you can watch us.
Thanks for
Deliver
listening.
And
memes.
if you can, rate, comment, tell everybody
Follow.
else to follow.
Yeah.
Just everything.
Tell
I know
your friends, tell
Somebody asked us
everyone.
on Spotify, so there's no way to
Yeah.
rate things on Spotify.
Is
So
there not? I have no idea.
Just give it a follow. Just
Ah.
hit
cool.
follow. Give it a follow.
Smart.
That's good.
Smart,
That's
smart,
all.
smart.
That's what we need. Give it a
Smart.
follow.
Let's jump into our first topic for the night, which is
Okay.
probably the most controversial thing I've seen on Twitter, and it's so dumb and annoying. The Avengers, or Avengers Endgame, to be specific, is getting, I guess, a re-release, not really a re-release, kind of a re-release. Starting June 28th, the movie is coming back into theaters that don't have it anymore, or new versions are going to be put out into theaters that are still hosting Avengers Endgame. Kevin Feige said that if you stay and you watch the movie after the credits, there's going to be a deleted scene, a little tribute, and a few other surprises.
Okay.
One of those tributes is something I think I may have mentioned it on social media or somewhere.
Yeah, you did.
That I thought it was going to be the Stan Lee tribute that they did, which is basically going back and they made like a 6 or 7 minute video that is a compilation of Stan Lee's cameos, the behind the scenes of Stan Lee's cameos when he shot them all for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh,
so
interesting.
I forget what website it was. It might have been IO9 or Gizmodo or somebody who confirmed that that's actually what it will be. It's also going to be on the Blu-ray.
Cool.
The deleted scenes, I know the Blu-ray has like 7 minutes or 8 minutes of deleted scenes. I think this is only going to have 1 or 2. And I have no clue what they're going to be. Some people are speculating it might be the Morgan Stark scene when Tony snaps his fingers, kind of like Thanos and Gamora had this scene.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
because they
he
shot
sees
that.
an adult daughter
Yeah, she's older. Yeah, she's like
who
18.
plays
Oh.
Morgan
It's
It's
Stark.
Catherine Langford from 13
Weird.
Reasons
Weird.
Why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which I understand in the context of the movie why they removed it. I think they
Yes.
said it didn't test that well,
Yeah.
and audiences were kind of confused by it. And
I
also-
would have been confused.
Yeah, I also don't think it was really necessary. I kind of hope
Not
it's
at all.
not that. I hope it's
Yeah.
something else and something different.
It also made that cheeseburger scene punch real hard.
Mm.
Like not seeing any kind of interaction with them.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
just
I
my 2
agree. I
cents.
agree.
I agree.
Just my 2
A
cents.
lot of people are also online, upset about this because they're saying that the only reason Disney's doing this is so they can reach and or surpass the record of Avatar. Hello, welcome to the business of making movies. That's the business of making
Yeah.
movies.
That's why.
Titanic did a re-release just so they could cross $1 billion and stay over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Like just
do you,
to
do
reinforce
you think
that.
with them being $43 million away that they could actually do it is the question.
I think so. I mean, I think if they're advertising there's going to be extra footage,
Yeah.
a tribute and a little bit of bonus extra stuff. Apparently, there might even be like an end credit scene. Whether or not that will
And-
play into Far From Home, who knows?
Exactly, and it goes into the next Spider-Man
Exactly,
movie, which
so
is coming out
You
soon.
don't think that every Marvel
Yeah.
fan at this point is not dying?
Marvel fan, yes. I don't know if
Yes.
general audiences will go
General
out.
audiences, no.
This is
but
gonna be for
Marvel
fans.
hardcore Marvel fans,
Yeah.
are going to be clamoring for this
For
footage,
sure.
and it's going to cross that
And
threshold.
that was the big part of this conversation that was annoying to me was like, yo, no one's telling you that you have to go.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go,
Don't go.
you just don't go.
If you want the movie Avatar to be the highest grossing movie of all time still, okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Then
I don't care.
Then it's I mean, I saw a lot of this too where people are like, it doesn't matter. They're both owned by the same company now. Everything is bad in the
True.
world. And you're not wrong.
There's
you're
a fire
absolutely,
everywhere. I'm like, all right.
You're absolutely right. That's totally true. I also think that just from like a fan standpoint or even a creative standpoint, I personally feel like it would be cool if Avengers Endgame, if an Avengers movie was the highest grossing movie ever.
not even,
of all
not even
time.
an
Not that-
Avengers movie, a
not-
superhero
a
movie.
superhero
Right,
movie.
right.
Not that it's
Yeah.
a thing that because here's why I happened to like the movie Avengers Endgame a
What?
lot more than Avatar.
Really?
And I like the movie Avatar. Avatar's a good movie. I don't know if it's a great movie. I think it's
Yeah.
a very good movie. I own it on 3D Blu-ray. I have seen it multiple times. I think it's good, but there's also stuff I don't like about that movie. There's
Sure.
also stuff that
That's like with any movie, though.
Yeah.
for sure.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but I'm saying that Avengers Endgame, from a fan creative standpoint, I understand from like a professional and real world and being a normal adult human standpoint, it seems sometimes weird and fanatical to root for this franchise because they are what's the opposite of an underdog? Like what's the
They're
opposite of that?
premier.
Overachiever.
They're like
They're
the super
them.
premier.
Yeah.
They're super premier.
the supreme.
But again, and maybe this might not feel like it right now, but I remember when Marvel was almost bankrupt.
Oh,
Do you know what I
man.
mean? I
It's not
remember
that long ago.
It was not that long ago. This has happened in a remarkably short amount of time for
Yeah.
Hollywood history. So
Right.
for me, it feels like it is a it's a little bit of a validation for fans that have loved comics and superhero comics for their whole lives, because especially since these kinds of fans have been asking for movies like this whole time, and it's kind of like it's. I don't want to be like I told you so, but it's been frustrating for 20 plus years to hear major movie studios be like, man, that's not going to work. That doesn't make any
Right,
sense.
right, right.
A movie with that, good luck trying to get that to
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
Regular audiences don't care about that.
Right.
You know, like that's dumb. And then to be like, no, really? Well, now it's potentially the highest
biggest movie of
grossing
all time.
I think the
So-
best example of that, aside from Marvel, is the first Batman movie that Tim Burton made. Benjamin Melniker and Michael Houston, they got the rights like in 1979.
And they knew how valuable Batman was, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, Batman, the Adam West thing?
No. It wasn't
So-
until Peter Goober was like, I'm interested.
It
And it
just-
took 10 years.
You know, it just feels like did you guys see whatever happened? The Death of Superman Lives. Whatever happened to
Yes.
Superman Lives?
Yeah.
John Schnapp, the
What happened,
documentary.
yeah.
If you
I
haven't had a
didn't see
chance,
it. I haven't
if you
seen
haven't
it
had a
yet.
chance to see it yet, I need to get a copy of it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try and get. But anyway, it's such a great. As a Superman fan, it's fascinating, but it's also fascinating to just look at the behind the scenes of how producers sometimes operate in Hollywood.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, this
absolutely.
guy has no fucking clue what this
Right.
thing is, and he's, you know what I mean, and he's making this a movie. So look,
That's the problem.
again,
Oh, John Peters.
even though Marvel Studios has been crushing it, I remember when Iron Man was a risk. I
Yeah.
remember when attempting to do lesser known characters was a risk. I remember all that stuff. So to me, it's nice to see. It's nice to see Avengers have as much success as it has, but it would be nice to be able to be like, yeah, it's the highest grossing movie of all time.
Absolutely.
I think it has a great script. I think it has great acting. I think it's top to bottom made from people that care about the thing.
Love the mythology.
And I'm not saying James Cameron doesn't care about Avatar.
Sure.
Right.
You know, James Cameron cares about that the way he cares about Terminator and the way he cares about Aliens when he did
Right.
that movie. But that kind of stuff is rare. It's not the norm for Hollywood. You
Also,
know?
like, it's
Yeah,
not forever.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Some movie will come
Yeah.
and dethrone Avengers Endgame if it becomes number one.
Yeah.
Hopefully
It's-
Justice League. If
yeah,
they
I
ever
mean,
revisit it.
Yeah, and it's just
that would be amazing.
That'd be great.
It's just one of those annoying things where it's like
Yeah.
there are people who are like, I'm going to put an asterisk next to that it only did it because. Like,
Of a
It's like,
re-release.
so,
Who cares?
so has every movie.
yeah.
I think even
How many
Avatar
times has
was
Star Wars been
re-released.
re-released?
Oh, hasn't Avatar even
Yes.
been released?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It crossed Titanic, then it went out of theaters. Then the following year they did a big re-release push in 3D
Mm-hmm.
to basically like solidify its
Right.
place.
To make it more
As
difficult
number
to
one.
get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
people were saying, like, well, Avatar got there with its initial release before Endgame did. I'm like, yeah, but we also don't live in 2009 where
Mm-hmm.
Avatar was on less screens, but there were also a lot more people going to the movies. Like,
Right.
everything's really
Mm-hmm.
changed.
The climate was
Just
different
because
back
there's
then,
5,000 screens showing Avengers Endgame doesn't
Yeah.
mean that, like, everyone is going out to the theater.
Over
Right.
way less like competition over its
Yeah.
like
Right.
09, and it was like over the Christmas and then into
Exactly.
like January,
Yeah.
February.
Exactly.
Like there was nothing.
Tentpole movies did not come
Yeah.
out every, like, 3 months to this scale.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, whatever. I mean, like,
it doesn't matter.
it
It's
really-
fine.
I feel like that's a very vocal minority, though, that's
It is.
complaining
Sure.
about this. It's just I tend not to pay attention to those kind
Yeah.
of people,
Mm-hmm.
just because I feel like they're crying just for crying's sake.
Of
So
course.
if you're crying about this, yeah.
well, the internet's just mad about something to be mad about something.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tweeted out. I'm like, look, here's what's going to change after my life when this
Yeah.
reaches number one. Absolutely
Nothing.
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 At all.
None of you are getting a piece of this $3
No.
billion.
You're
So
actually
who cares?
they're taking more of your money because now you're gonna buy tickets to Disneyland to go see the new Marvel
That's
world
right.
that they're building.
That's right.
So I guess we all lose.
Yeah. So whatever. You
end,
know, it's
yeah.
like. Whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
This is something that I'm very interested in. I would
Me
love
too,
to
me too,
hear
me
your
too.
take.
Me
And
too, me too.
Zach, we got to talk about this on Comics and Coffee on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams and his son Henry
Abrams, yeah.
are writing a limited Spider-Man arc, or an arc of the Spider-Man
He
comic book.
looks and sounds like a little clone of
It was
J.J.
so
Abrams.
He's an
it's
exact
weird.
clone.
Great.
It
is
was
an
so
exact
weird.
delightful.
Like
It's
even like the
delightful.
glasses shift
Yeah.
and just like I'm so nervous.
Hi, I'm J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Henry Abrams.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is really unsettling.
Yep.
Hi, I'm JJ. And I'm Henry. Henry's very nervous.
I am so nervous right now.
Here's the thing. We have written a Spider-Man comic book.
It's coming out in September.
It's a limited series.
And the way he was like, so thank you. Why did I say thank you? Oh, because they're lovely. Oh, that's right. They're all lovely people. Yeah, I'm like, these are good boys.
They've been hanging out together their
This is
entire
so
lives.
great. This is
So
so
it's,
great.
it's so interesting to me too because we've done this for 5 years now, and it's kind of become like we do this so easily, and it's so weird to have a director of or the son of a director who's of J.J. Abrams' caliber being nervous about talking in front of a camera.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you would think like,
Yeah.
oh, this should kind of come like natural to you, shouldn't it? But no, because he doesn't do what we do.
because he doesn't do it.
make
Yeah,
videos.
it's not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But this is kind of exciting. I'm very curious to see what J.J. Abrams can bring to the comics, to Spider-Man in the comics with his son.
Yeah.
They're going to be introducing a brand new villain called Cadaverous,
Sure.
who will cause problems for Spider-Man, his alter ego Peter Parker, and Mary Jane and all that stuff. It's a 5-part series that's going to debut in September. This isn't the first time a filmmaker has gone and done comic books, like Richard Donner has done it with Superman.
That's right.
But how do you guys feel about filmmakers coming in, whether they are or are not connected to the property in any way, and having the opportunity to do a limited run on a character that they love?
I think that it's great. I think it's fine because, like you mentioned, the Richard Donner's a great example. Richard Donner came and worked with Jeff Johns, who at the time and still is one of the main head honcho writers over at DC.
Yeah.
And years ago, Jeff Johns was Richard Donner's like assistant. So and that was one of his earliest gigs in just gigs period. And so he was doing that at the same time as Kevin Feige, and they were working for the Donners. And so that's how he was able to sort of rope in legendary movie director Dick Donner, Richard Donner.
Yeah.
I think it was fine because it was whatever the collaboration was, it worked. And that story, Last Son of Krypton, that is Superman finding a child that ends up being Zod's kid, and then him and Lois have to figure out what to do. It felt like an action movie. It felt similar sometimes in tone to like Superman 2 or the first Superman movie. So like I liked it, and the end result was it's a comic book that I would own and I would reread it, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I remember years ago when I was at Comic-Con, there was a panel with I think I was waiting for some other panel, but then but like before that there was a panel where Nicolas Cage came out with his son. Who I think is named Kal-El Cage, like named after Superman, but I think he may have been going by something else. And both of them were saying that they're writing this independent comic book about like a voodoo superhero in New Orleans. I never read that comic book. I don't know if and when it came out. I don't know if it was good or not, but it just didn't make an impact and didn't like if it had come out and it was a banger, I feel like I would have heard about it like, oh yeah, Nicolas Cage like sort of helped his son write this thing and and they're obviously big into comic books and here's the end result. And if it just meant that we got a good comic, I feel like it would have endured. But if it was a very much like Hollywood cash grab, well then it will fizzle away, and that's what ended up happening to that thing. And the last thing I'll say is this does not seem like it's out of the blue for me, because years ago, maybe like a decade ago, maybe less than a decade, I had a friend in San Diego who was working at a comic book store when all of a sudden they called me after and they're like, hey Hector, this is weird, but my coworkers just let me know I just sold a bunch of comics to J.J. Abrams. Like I didn't recognize J.J. Abrams, and he was looking for a bunch of stuff for his son. And I was like, that is so cool that J.J. Abrams, who was working on Lost and like Mission Impossible, he'd done Mission Impossible 3, and I think he had already done Star Trek at the time. I feel like this was after 2009, was in a comic book shop in San Diego and getting comics for his son and having the staff there like help JJ because he wasn't familiar with stuff and like getting good picks for his like to take to his son because he was apparently saying my son's huge into comics. He's huge into superheroes and stuff. So like that was so when I heard this news I was like, oh cool, Henry stuck with it. I'm like, I'm glad Henry didn't grow out of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm glad
insider knowledge.
And I remember that J.J. Abrams years ago has been given, and that's what's cool is that he at least I have one example. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know how genuine it was that his dad was involved in his son's interests, maybe not his.
Sure.
That's cool. How
I agree.
often that's rare.
That
even
is
if the
rare.
interests
Totally.
are the same as mine, and I'm almost expecting a parent to do that. This dude is mega creative superstar director J.J. Abrams, who's like, why do you care about that stuff? I did Lost. Watch this. I did Star Trek. Watch this. I did this. But instead, he's like, I don't know this stuff, but I'm getting it for my son. He's really big into it. And he's going out of his sort of way to. So
imagine
I'm
if
excited.
Hector ever had a kid, and Hector handed him a comic book, and he's like, he did the Luke Skywalker. Just threw it to the side.
I'd be like Ray, like,
and then he picked up a football. And he's like, I'm gonna play sports, Dad.
I'd be like,
Adoption.
You're not mine.
I'd be like,
You'd yell at Abby. You'd be like, Abby, whose kid is this?
well, whose kid is it? No, I'd be like, all right, we're watching Rudy. We're watching Little Giants.
Miracle?
We're watching Miracle. We're watching Mark Wahlberg in Invincible.
Oh my God.
And then I'd be like, and then we're going to watch.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the Will Smith movie about concussions?
Concussion.
Yeah,
I'll be like, now
Concussion.
we're watching Concussion.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the reality.
Check it out.
Check this out. This will happen to you.
Dad, what about the potentiality?
Tell the truth.
Nah, fuck that.
No,
the
tell the
reality.
truth.
Tell the truth.
Dad, I'm the Michael Jordan of football. No, you're not.
Putting on Space Jam. You want to be Michael Jordan? You want to have
This
to
is
fight
what's
the
gonna happen to
monsters? This is what's
you.
going to happen. You have
wanna
to fight the
aliens?
Monstars. You have to fight them to help the Looney
Oh
Tunes.
my
you don't want
God.
that.
Oh my
No,
God.
I will.
That's
But
fact.
that's a great example,
Yeah.
Augustine, of like you have to. It's not about pushing your stuff on. And I don't have kids. I don't know. None of us have kids yet. Maybe someday we will. Who knows? But I know parents that are our age, and I've had this conversation with them where I'm like, is it really cool to just sort of like share all the movies and stuff with them? And they're like, yeah, that's the best part. But I've also seen the conversation. It's not about forcing what you love onto them.
Right,
It's about
right.
figuring out what they like and then kind of like helping that, encouraging that. So
So you're saying JJ hit the jackpot with his son.
yeah, man.
And his son is like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, let's do this.
And if he's been reading comics for at least 10 years,
Yeah.
and maybe more because he seems like a young guy, I'm excited to read what he's got. He
Yeah,
can be,
that's
he can,
great.
and here's the other thing, too. One of my favorite comic book artists ever is John Romita Jr. That's kind of nepotism. That's kind of not. That dude had to go and break into the comic book industry knowing his father was John Romita Sr., one of
Yeah.
the all times. And so did Andy and Adam Kubert, and their father is Joe Kubert.
Yeah.
And now Andy Kubert's daughter is getting into comic books as a professional
Wow.
artist. So it's like a, triple
Generation,
generational
yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
but they also have to deal with, look, I know my last name's this, so it can be tough to, to land some
break
of those
that
gigs.
legacy, yeah.
Will it maybe get their foot in the door? Yeah, but if
Right.
you don't have the chops,
Right, absolutely.
you're going to get out.
I mean-
and John Romita Jr. is one of my favorite comic book artists ever, and I prefer him to Senior, and I love them both. So, like, if this means we could get a fantastic... If J.J. Abrams is opening the door to bring in Henry, and all of a sudden, 8 years, 10 years from now, we're still talking about Henry Abrams is, like, knocking out
Spider-Man.
amazing comic book
Right,
runs, and
right.
we're like, oh, yeah, he's the son of J.J. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and he talked about that too. One of the things that he talked about was saying, I completely understand that I have a real leg up and a real advantage over a lot of people because of my dad.
Right.
My hope is that after we do this collaboration, and depending on how it's received, I can then go in and do my own stuff by myself.
man.
you know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, and that is exciting. And you're right though, because like 10 years ago, JJ talks about how 10 years ago he was being hit up by a friend who I think was working at Marvel at the time. Like, JJ, come and do some comics. Come write some
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really he didn't really know exactly what he wanted to do, but because his son loved comics so much, that was kind of like his in.
Great.
And
Well,
his son
that's-
loved Spider-Man.
So Viggo Mortensen was not going to do Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
But his
yeah.
son pushed him into it
Yeah.
because he's like, Dad, they called you for Lord of the Rings. He didn't really know what Lord of the Rings was.
Go!
And his son was like, dude, he was obsessed. He had just finished reading the Lord of the Rings and he was
Oh,
obsessed with
nice.
it.
That's
So he
great.
really kind of did it for his son and then kind of fell in love with the role.
yeah.
cool.
But I think this is really cool because of what it's doing to comics at this point. Because we all know that comics aren't necessarily a thriving industry right
Sure,
now.
yeah.
Like you're kind of in the tank right now. So this is bringing a lot of attention to people who might not necessarily read the comics or realize that this is happening. That there's these great stories being told. Not a lot of people are reading them. Like we had the great author Ta-Nehisi Coates write Black Panther. Not a lot of people are talking about it unless you're like a uber nerd of comics and you realize how important that is for comic books and for writing. But now having a person like JJ come in and say, look, we're writing something with my son. JJ has a big spotlight on him. He's on Star Wars now. He's involved with Marvel Comics in some way.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a great jump-in point for people who might be intimidated to jump into comics and just say, I'm familiar with JJ. I like his stuff. Generally, people who are going to read this are going to be fans of JJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to jump in with maybe more of an open mind than like jumping into a Straczynski book or something like that. So I think it's a great move overall, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to pick this up. I'm going to get
Yeah.
every single issue.
If they were smart in the back of each issue, they'd be like, did you like that? Here's some Spider-Man
Exactly.
Yeah.
series we have
Recommends.
going right now.
Yeah.
Here's some paperbacks.
Check
You
out
can
this
get
author. Check out this artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
All this
Yes.
stuff. It's a perfect time to plug things
Yeah.
and give people more of an in to say, hey guys, we know it's intimidating. We're going to give you a little leg up.
Yeah.
Love it. I love
There
it.
you go.
I agree, and there's
Yeah.
so much good stuff out right
Yeah.
now. I've been reading some stuff that I'm like loving.
Cool.
Adam,
Man.
I love that you're
too, man.
reading. You're back into reading comics now.
If I
It's
can,
great.
if there's a
It's
tug
great.
of war happening, let me get on the side that has comics versus games, because I know
Uh-huh.
Emily's
Uh-huh.
pulling you this way, and I'm like, but no, keep doing comics.
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
reading
Look,
comics.
I'm not gonna lie. I am
Can't-
definitely playing Crash Team Racing tonight.
That's okay. That's all right. That's
okay.
That's okay.
That's dipping toes into jacuzzi,
Yeah,
baby. That's
yeah,
not full
exactly.
on the
That's
thing
not the
Exactly.
13-foot
that,
pool.
that
Yeah.
Zach was playing earlier. That I'm like, I was
Right.
worried that was you. I'm like,
No,
that's
no, no.
hardcore gaming.
It's very
okay.
hardcore
We're
gaming.
gonna lose hours.
Yeah.
Staying in the world of comics, not sticking in the world, but staying in the world of comics. DC is shedding its Vertigo imprint. I know a lot of people have been kind of sad by this. Some people are sort of indifferent to the whole thing. But by January 2020, DC will completely phase out Vertigo, DC Inc., and DC Zoom, which are some of the subdivisions of DC, where they basically make comic books aimed at different ages of readers. So now the whole point is that they're going to be unifying everything just under DC, and they're going to create some new divisions. So Dan DiDio was saying, we're returning to a singular presentation of the DC brand that was present throughout most of our history until 1993 when we launched Vertigo to provide an outlet for edgier material. That kind of material is now mainstream across all genres, so we thought it was the right time to bring greater clarity to the DC brand and reinforce our commitment to storytelling for all of our fans in every age group. The new system will replace the age ratings we currently use on our material.
What's the new system?
So the new system we've broken down into 3 parts, and it's all going to be targeted towards age groups. DC Kids will target everything 8 to 12, which I think will also be kind of open to anybody under the age of 8.
Yeah.
Then DC Main, which will encompass the classic heroes. Most of it will be 13 plus. And then DC Black Label with things like Superman Year One, which will be more adult focused, 17 plus.
Yeah.
Ooh, Black Label.
Yeah, Black
Dang.
Label. So I would actually love it if DC could find a way to sort of implement something similar like this to their cinematic universes. When it comes to the
What if
shared
Joker? What if
universe.
Joker comes out and it's like
DC Black
it's
Label.
technically on like the Black Label
Sure.
for the movies,
right,
the,
yeah.
the Joaquin Phoenix.
Exactly.
Which I
That'd be
think-
interesting.
Yeah, which I think could be very, very
or,
possible.
or is Shazam DC Kids? Probably.
Nah,
No, it's probably DC.
That's normal DC.
yeah,
there's some-
I think DC
I would
Kids
say.
will be like Teen Titans movie. You know
yeah,
what I
Teen
mean?
Titans go
Teen
to the
Titans
movies.
go
Yeah.
to the movies. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
animated
definitely,
stuff
that's
for
definitely
sure,
8 to 12.
for sure.
I don't know.
All right,
What does that say about me though? Because I fucking love that movie and that
Yeah.
cartoon.
I know. It's so
It means
good.
we have the brains of 8-year-olds.
Yeah,
Exactly.
baby.
Yay!
What do you,
It's
how
so
do you guys
funny.
feel about this? DC
It
seems
would
to
be
be
so awesome.
DC seems to be going through
Be so cool.
quite a few changes. Recently, into the new year, it seems like they're going to be changing a lot of stuff. I've heard that they're really going to be doing a lot of rebranding, but it's not necessarily going to be huge stuff. But it's going to be a lot of taking a lot of pieces and sort of reconstructing, the DC brand in a way that really pushes the main characters being supported by this entirely huge, vast universe. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about the changes?
I feel like it's
does it
really.
matter,
I
or-
feel like it's really tough because I feel like part of these things, the rebranding and all this stuff, is to get more attention to your brand and push your brand in the direction, which is great. But we recently had the New 52, which was kind of a push in that direction, and then the relaunch with Rebirth that pushed in that direction. And the things that happen is that like they push it hard for like the first 6 months, and then it just kind of goes away.
Yeah. Sure.
And then they push Rebirth
just kind of like
really hard.
absorbs into
because-
the comic.
Yeah,
book
and then
world.
because it
just
has
kinda
to
goes
normal
away.
off, because it
Right.
has to
So
normalize.
it has to normalize. So that's the thing. I feel like if they really push this, they have to make it very clear that this is the direction that's happening now. And I don't know if necessarily just kind of putting everything in 3 basic categories is going to be enough. If everything ends up kind of looking the same. So it's kind of tough for me to get behind this 100% just because we've seen pushes like this before, and it's always very promising. I remember when Rebirth came out, I was like, yes, I'm going to try to get every single copy that I can. And eventually it became too much again, and I was just like, I can't follow this. Like,
Yeah.
everything's starting over. It's too big.
I have a feeling you brought up a great concern, Augie, talking about how like you need to have these sort of these like little resurgences of focuses,
Right.
And if it goes away later, whatever, but you still have to have that. I feel
Right.
like that could still happen.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you a good example. Some people were pointing out like, well, what's going to happen with Young Animal, which is another sort of imprint that they have right now that has like Doom Patrol, Shade the Changing Woman. Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, Mother Panic, and some other like the sort of off-brand. These comics were sort of overseen by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance. He was working with DC. So if you go and open up like a catalog, like I have it at home, it'll have like
You're not at home, Hector.
I wouldn't
have,
be
like-
surprised if he just produced one
right here.
now.
but it'll be like Young Animal, and it listed those books in
Right.
in that sort of category. Or right after DC Dark Knight's Metal.
Right.
After that event, they launched 6 new books that were all
Right.
considered the new age of heroes.
Right.
They had like Sideways
Right.
and the Terrifics and the New Challengers of the Unknown and all this other thing. So like they said new age of heroes. That's not an imprint, but it's still like a focus that
Right.
highlighted a selection of books.
Right.
Like next time they do an event, they might be like when they did like Throne of Atlantis, when Aquaman was, or Flashpoint or whatever, and there's tie-ins. They still might do that stuff. It's
Right.
I feel like this thing is specifically just for the age
Yeah.
categorizations
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
things.
That's what it feels
That's
like.
what it feels like. So to your point, I feel like what you're kind of describing, they will still do that. They'll still
Yeah.
come up with a new sort of rebirth,
Right.
in a,
Right.
whatever next year's thing is going to be, some sort of push, while still utilizing these 3 like age ratings.
Yeah.
But they'll still be able to do whatever the thing is that they're trying to
Right.
kind of highlight.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel, Adam? You're kind of like the more business-centered mind out of all of
And you're getting back into comics right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this going to affect at all how you're
I
interfacing?
understand the push because I think a lot of times, especially for people who are maybe not as familiar, that companies like DC have imprints within each other. They had Wildstorm, and then that kind of went away, and then they have Vertigo and all that sort of stuff. So I understand sort of like cleaning up
Yeah.
what DC is and what the brand represents and what they want it to be. I guess my only concern would be, because of this, does that mean that we're now going to be limited to what DC puts out? Because
No, I don't think so.
I
No,
feel like
because-
Vertigo allowed them to have a lot of like free reign to
okay.
do, like non-superhero stuff or things that
Yeah.
were,
Right.
one-offy. But I hope that still like DC Black Label, it has something that has it's something that has nothing to do with superheroes. Here's
Right.
like DMZ or something. You know
So
what I
you're
mean?
I see what
hoping
you're
that
saying.
those properties are just absorbed into this new
Yeah,
age
I don't want them
range.
to
get
go
that.
away. You know what I
because
mean?
because a lot
Gotcha.
of Black Label stuff that has been announced is still superhero
Yes.
focused,
Yes.
like Superman Year One,
Yes.
Right,
or
right.
Batman White Knight.
Yep.
Those are still like superhero-y versus like Vertigo has books like Why the Last Man.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sandman and all these different things
Mm-hmm.
that aren't really superhero-y. That's a great concern. I feel like that
Yeah.
one. Who kind of knows?
Yeah.
Here's what I'd like.
TBD.
Here's what I like about this. I like that mostly people online were talking today about how it is the end of an era if Vertigo is going away, because Vertigo launched in 1993 and even retroactively went and absorbed some books from the 80s that weren't Vertigo, and now they were, like Swamp Thing, Saga of the Swamp Thing, Alan Moore, and Doom Patrol, Grant Morrison. They were regular DC books, and then with Vertigo, they were able to kind of be like, oh, actually, they're for adults. They've been for adults. And
Yeah, look,
that's
Vertigo.
what they are.
It's not
Yeah.
really us. It's,
Yeah. The thing is
I think that's what that was.
people online are saying, it's the end of an era. I started getting into comics, and they broke my brain with Vertigo. It opened up all the possibilities. A lot of writers I follow were like, I was really lucky to do a Vertigo thing, or I never got to do a Vertigo thing. I would have loved to.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm going to be a little frank right now. I feel like Vertigo has almost kind of not worn out its welcome, but like when you think
It hasn't
like
been as
Vertigo,
relevant, I would say.
Vertigo was very important to a specific generation,
Okay.
and because of how specific it was to that generation. Because if I say like the Bronze Age of comics, it's still pretty varied. But if I say
Yeah.
like early Vertigo, like '93 to 2005 or whatever, those books all kind of had like a look.
Yeah.
Like
Of course
the
they
art
did.
looked
Yeah,
a certain
yeah,
way,
yeah.
the writing was a certain way. It was very grimy
The colors
and
were
grungy.
definitely
the colors.
a certain way. Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I say Vertigo now, I feel like it's still so strongly tied to that it doesn't necessarily mean a new book
Yeah.
today.
Right,
It
right,
means
right.
like, oh, Vertigo, yeah, like
Yeah.
like DMZ,
Yeah.
like Scalped,
Yeah.
like all these
Yeah.
books that have completed their runs. It's
Yeah.
like
It's a little bit of a
like
product of
all
like
those
its time,
things.
kind of.
Definitely.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes,
Yeah.
like Sandman, The Dreaming, or whatever. It's
Sure.
like, yeah, cool. Yeah, but then they tried to sort of they pushed a new Sandman
Yeah.
thing in the past year or so with a couple new books, and that was
Yeah.
like Sandman Universe. That wasn't
Yeah.
Vertigo. That wasn't
Right,
even the
right, right.
covers for those old Vertigo books were always like painted.
Yeah.
And like
Yep.
watercolor or oil paintings
Yeah.
or whatever, and they look really grimy. And then they had that like the Vertigo, even like the logo, the font is very
Yeah.
very 90s.
Very,
to me.
very
yeah,
nice.
That's
yeah,
25 years old is when it
Yeah.
started.
Yeah,
25
yeah.
years old. So
Damn,
so
crazy.
I think that we'll probably still see. I mean, Jim Lee said, look, we're not canceling any books.
Sure.
Right.
They're all still going to keep existing. They'll just have like a different
Just
marketing,
get mashed
basically.
into
Yeah,
a different
yeah.
category.
Yeah.
that's all.
So I feel like they do a lot of. Sometimes they take risks on superhero stuff. Sometimes it's very non-risk factor. But the past couple years, I've seen DC do a lot of really great, groundbreaking books. I mean, even in the Hanna-Barbera line, the Snagglepuss comic is like
Right.
so fucking good, and it is mature reader for sure.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I never would have. I mean, it could be a Vertigo book, but it's also
Sure.
kind of cool that the marketing on that, the design on that is Hanna-Barbera,
Right,
which
right,
I'm like,
right.
you know,
Who'd
dude,
have
like
thought?
Right.
they're
you wouldn't
pushing.
Have, you wouldn't
yeah,
have thought that lady would have put out such great material.
yeah,
Right?
Hanna-Barbera.
That woman,
Hanna-Barbera.
Hanna-Barbera.
That
Yeah,
woman,
no, she's a,
Hanna-Barbera,
she's
yeah.
a
super
gem.
talented. She
Super-
created
Such a gem.
created all of them.
Duper
They're great.
talented.
Super
Yeah.
gem. Next month is Comic-Con. Hopefully it's going to be fun.
I just got
This
tired.
news that just came out
Just got tired.
makes me feel like we absolutely have to be at this
Oh,
panel.
actually, yes.
Yes. So hit us, Adam.
This is a big deal.
Well, thank God we got an email today that's saying press badges have been sent out. Yay! So Marvel Studios is expected to make an appearance at San Diego Comic-Con this year, returning after a year-long absence. They didn't attend last year. I'm very excited to see what they're going to bring. I think a lot of the stuff that people are speculating. First footage from Black Widow is expected to debut alongside Scarlett Johansson should be there, the director Kate Shortland, and obviously the supporting cast. They just announced Ray Winstone is going to be in the movie. Florence Pugh is in it. So I think that's an opportunity for us to really find out, what is this movie?
Rachel Weisz, she gonna show up.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it.
Kevin Feige has confirmed that it will be a prequel, even though
Yep.
he won't confirm that it's actually being made, which is fine because it's being shot in Europe right now anyway. Other expected films that will probably make some sort of an announcement because they haven't started shooting yet: The Eternals, Shang-Chi, sequels to Doctor Strange, and potentially Black Panther.
I really, really hope they bring the heat like that one Doctor Strange panel.
I
that you
missed
guys
that.
posed.
Laser show. I did miss
Oh
that.
my
I was
god!
busy doing work for other people.
Yeah,
Here's-
you were so miserable that year.
This is
That was
already
bullshit.
This is already getting me so excited because, like, it's just getting me so excited. Like, I
Yeah.
think they're going to first of all announce all of that stuff. I think
Yeah.
I'm predicting right now they're going to announce the 6 movies that are coming out over the next 2 years,
Yeah, I
like the
think
3
so.
next year and the 3 after, because they have to have that mapped out.
Absolutely.
At this point,
Is it 3 movies next year? I think it's just 2.
I think it's May.
I think they
July,
moved one.
November.
I think they moved one from. I think the July one. I think it basically
Hold
like got
up.
like skewed off.
Hold up.
I could be
what?
wrong, but
Okay.
in any
What?
case, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to be announced, and the thing that I'm looking forward to is obviously what's the plan going to be, but how much of that are they going to hold back because D23 is happening the month after. So is Comic-Con going to mostly focus on movies, where D23 will focus on Marvel Studios film and television, Disney Plus, and all that stuff.
I feel like D23 is going to touch on that. Maybe they might hold a few things back, but I feel like Comic-Con has such a special place in the comic book fan's heart that
yeah.
that might be the premier location, probably the best location to premiere all this information. As far as D23 goes, they have a lot of stuff to announce there too. Like there's a giant slate coming out.
Here's what I'm calling. I feel like you're right. This is just going to be movies. Just going to be at Hall H. May 1st and November 6th, 2020, we're going to figure out what movies they are. They're going to be like May 1st, Black Widow.
Right.
November, Eternals.
Eternals, yeah.
And then they've got February 12th, May 7th, and November 5th for 2021.
Wow.
They're going to be like
There's
Black
3 movies
Panther.
right there.
They're going to be like Black Panther.
man.
Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange.
Guardians 3.
Guardians 3 is not coming out till after
Ooh,
Suicide Squad,
okay.
2022.
You're right. So
probably,
then it'll be
or
like
3.
it'll be Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi will be the July 29th. I think.
Yeah.
And
You
then
heard it here
then
first.
they're gonna close out the panel, be like, I think there's one more thing, and we're gonna hear like, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, and it'll be the Wakanda flute, and then Ryan Coogler will come out, bam 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 bam, T'Challa,
hopefully
bam bam
Coogler
bam
comes
bam,
back.
and the whole 6,000 people are gonna be like, T'Challa, da 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 da, T'Challa. And
Chadwick
he's gonna-
Boseman gonna show up in
come out,
costume.
He's gonna come out and be like, "Hey man, it's gonna be dope. This is what we got. This is what we have. Everybody's coming back."
Surrounded
Chadwick
by the
Boseman.
Dormelage, yeah.
No, and
yeah.
they write at him and be like, and we got one more special guest, and they're gonna bring out Michael B. Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
He's gonna come out and everybody's gonna be like, how is this possible? And they're gonna be like,
This doesn't make
2020,
sense.
2020, 2022.
And he's gonna say,
No, 2021.
what does he say about the king? He's like, not is this your king, but
Oh, does
Yeah.
he say that?
You're
No,
com-
no.
He's like,
King?
oh, you're comfortable up here. You're all comfortable up here.
Or if he says something to the effect of like, your king is here, but like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that
Oh
mean?
my God.
Cut.
Yeah.
Fade to black.
Right, they all disappear.
Oh,
it's
so
gonna be
it's
good.
gonna it's
Yeah.
gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
It's going to be real good. But yeah, I'm very curious to
man.
see. I'm very curious to see how do you differentiate D23 from Comic-Con, because when they
Right,
brought
right,
stuff from
right.
Avengers Infinity War, they had shown that stuff at D23. I think like the week before,
Okay.
and
The
D23.
week before Comic-Con?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Wait, when's D23?
it's traditionally, I think it's in August, but I think like last year or like the year before,
Oh,
it was
so
early.
Is this year? Is it going to be in August?
It's in August. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then I don't care about D23. Whatever.
You didn't apply for your
You mean you
press
don't want
badges?
to go? You don't want to get that press badge and go?
I'll get it. I'll
You
apply.
applied,
I'll
right?
apply.
I
No,
did.
not yet.
I
I'll do
applied.
it today. I'll do it today. But
We can go see Marvel and Star Wars
tonight.
in the
Yeah,
same
dude.
day.
Let's do it. But I think all of the Disney Plus stuff is happening there.
Yeah, I
in
think
which,
D23
in which
is
there
out.
is
I
a
think
lot
so.
to announce, and that's
Right.
really exciting.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think Hall H is the place to go. Here's
Absolutely.
here's
Here's the
Phase
big movie
4.
shit.
Right,
The,
right.
the beginnings of Phase 4, and here's some stuff we got planned.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. I feel like Marvel understands the importance of a Hall H appearance.
Yeah.
If
I
anybody
agree.
does, it's them. For
Yeah,
sure.
and I think like Eternals, I think the presentation will be very similar to the first Guardians movie, where it's
Yeah.
a lot of concept art, a lot of
Yeah.
like showing you conceptual designs, what everything's going to
Yep.
look like.
Right.
But because they have so much of the cast already figured out, you can bring them on and talk about like, what are you going to bring to the
Yeah.
character? Who is
Yeah.
the character? What's the world?
It's going to be interesting to see people's reaction to that. Just
Yeah.
because we spent 10 years with all these other characters,
know.
we kind of knew what we were
I
getting.
know.
Brand new franchise here.
Yep.
Nobody really knows about these guys.
Exactly.
What are people going
There's
to think?
also people speculating that this might be a good opportunity to do like the 10-year, 11-year wrap up of the first 3 phases of the MCU
Sure,
and bring up
sure.
the classic heroes
Absolutely.
to just like be
Say
there with the
goodbye.
audience to say goodbye, basically.
That'd be great.
Oh,
The
I would
6
cry.
Avengers,
Oh, if they
Robert
came out and
Downey.
said goodbye, I
Yeah.
would be sobbing in tears.
The last thing he said would be
Yeah.
like, "I love you 3000." Everyone would be
Oh,
like, Robert Downey, mijo, no te vayas,
Robert Downey.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
It would be pretty amazing, though,
Yeah,
wouldn't
that'd be
it?
great. Way
that
better
would
than
be
when
amazing.
Johnny Depp showed up as
Oof,
Grindelwald.
oof, oof.
No, yeah, that'd be great.
Controversial. But before we go, we're going to get to some viewer questions. If you
Boom,
guys
boom,
want
boom,
to check out
boom.
the viewer questions, jump on over to our Patreon. We've got some amazing viewer questions. And there might be a couple bangers in there. Last week we had some really, really good ones. So
Yeah.
if you want to check that out, jump over to our Patreon, check it out.
This first question's good.
It is good. It is good. There's some
It's
good
about
ones.
Avengers Endgame.
I promise there's some good ones. But make sure you guys subscribe. Let us know what you think about everything that we covered today. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.